Guys, we have finally done it. We're moving out of the warehouse.
Woo-hoo!
Woohoo! That's right. We're moving out of the warehouse. Now, listeners, before you get too excited, this does not mean that we have upgraded.
Woo! We have actually downgraded, one could say.
I would say it's not. I would say we've moved sideways because there's positives and negatives, guys. Because of the tour being cancelled and because of all the restrictions coming in, I'm moving out of the warehouse and I'm moving into my own house. And I've decided to move into a big house that has a nice big garage that will film all of the shows in, and we'll be running all of my content out of there, as well as the Luke and Lewis show. And that's how it's going to be for the remainder of this crisis, and however long it takes for us to get a proper office space. But that's how the show is going to be done. As soon as, I don't know, this quarantine shit, it seems like it's going to make the show go on Zoom for a long time.
I feel like
this.
Yeah, people really need to settle in and get used to the idea that A, our show will be like this. B, almost every show, podcast you like will be like this. People really need to, I've just accepted defeat at this point. This is life now.
Yeah, this is what it is. But for me, I will be moving out of the house and out of the warehouse, and I'm so stoked about it. When I was packing everything up, it was like a very quick thing. I've been sick of the warehouse for ages because it wasn't too bad for Luke and Lewis, but filming my own personal shit, it was impossible because it was so loud and there was always people farting and playing hardstyle.
That was actually one of the...
which made shit hard.
By the end, like, we used to complain about the hardstyle a lot and the music, but by the end, the two worst things about it were the audible farts you could hear through the walls from old Russian men, and also the cigarette smoke that came through the walls. It was just bad. It was not ideal, and it was in a very cramped space, and you know what? A part of me misses it though. Already.
Well, that's what I thought, Luke. Okay, so when we signed the lease on this new place and everything like that, I was like, oh, I'm gonna miss the warehouse. As shit as it was, it had its charm and it had its character. I'm gonna miss this. And then I got to the warehouse. The alarm went off for 45 minutes while I tried to work out how to set it because they changed the settings again. And then I had to use the bathroom and there was shit everywhere and it smelled terrible. And I was like, you know what? I'm not going to miss this place at all. This sucks.
Yeah. The one thing that we realized though, and we didn't want to say on the podcast, we kind of implied it, I think, last week, but last week was the last Luke and Lewis episode ever recorded at the warehouse, and we didn't make a big deal of it because I didn't know if it was 100% going to be that. And I told the boys before we recorded it, I was like, boys, this is going to be the last one, and you weren't even there for it.
I know.
So what I was thinking was, I feel like the warehouse was such a special part of the show. The show wouldn't have been what it was for so long without having the sketchy warehouse tales, without having the stories of you almost being murdered at night. I feel like that added character to what we do here, you know?
Yes,
and
definitely.
I feel like we owe it to the warehouse and owe it to the audience as well and the listeners to celebrate doing the show at the warehouse one more time. Now, I know we can't do it at the moment because of isolation, but can we make a promise here, a pact on this show, that as soon as isolation is done, we set up deck chairs outside the warehouse. We completely dox it. We say the address. Who gives a fuck? We're not going to be there anymore. It doesn't matter, right? We do it outside the gates, and we just sit there, do a podcast, and do the final warehouse episode. Yes, you're not leasing it. It's not technically the same, but we'll still be able to smell the cigarettes. We'll be able to hear the farts. It'll be almost exactly the same.
We could buy some Nangs.
Yeah, we'll probably slip on the Nangs still. We won't be able to get a park, and I'm assuming you'll be able to hear the attack dogs that are across the road barking at us. I feel like all the elements of a regular podcast will be there.
I think that we would have to do that on a weekend, because if we did it on a weekday, we would absolutely get kicked out.
Maybe.
But yes, let's do it.
We can do that?
Yep, let's do it.
One more warehouse episode. So we have not yet done the final warehouse episode. we will still do one more.
Before we move on from the warehouse, I just would like to, because Ruben was the newest addition to the team, and he's only been working with us for a few months, now that we're moving out of the warehouse and you don't have to pretend anymore, Ruben, what were your initial thoughts of where you had just started to work? I would love to know that.
Yeah, well, I walked in on the trial shift, and I actually think I remember being, because I'd heard of the show before, and I remember walking in being like, oh, it's actually a warehouse.
You
really
thought
weren't
it was
kidding
like a
about
bit
this.
for the show where we were like, oh, we're in this fucked warehouse, but you thought, oh, they're probably in a
Yeah.
nice office building somewhere.
Like some cool
But it's-
studio space that used to be a warehouse instead of a warehouse surrounded by
Yeah.
warehouses in a warehouse district.
And it was also so small. Like, I feel like when you guys say warehouse, people picture like a big warehouse.
Yeah.
This is like a subsection of a warehouse.
Yes.
Like it's basically a lounge room is what it is, but
Yeah.
with corrugated iron
It is.
walls.
It's
Yeah.
a big warehouse divided by corrugated iron, which is why you can still hear farts in the next door warehouse.
It's a lounge room with farts.
I mean, most lounges also contain farts, but anyway. Well, that's good. But you stuck it through. What were your parents thinking? Because I met Ruben's parents a couple of weeks ago for the first time, and I came in to your house, and I feel like your parents were just like, oh, this is the guy that you've been going to this sketchy place with every day. I feel like they really looked at me like, fucking, what are you doing with my son?
They didn't know that I was working at a warehouse. I don't think I ever told
Oh,
them
it was that bad you didn't even tell your parents because you knew
No,
they'd say
no.
stop working there.